afternoon. I want to introduce our speaker, Kathy Snavely, is the owner of Lightkeeper Consultant and Advocacy Integrated Media, also known as AIM. That's much simpler.
Yes, it is.
So with her company, Lightkeepers Consulting, Kathy works with micro enterprises, assisting them with business, strategic, and event planning, as well as marketing and social media platforms. With AIM, Kathy works with nonprofit organizations and municipalities, helping them build and grow relationships with their respective target audiences. Kathy is a recipient of Pennsylvania's Best Women in Business Award. She also finds time to teach and has been ranked among the top 100 marketing professionals on Twitter by Social Media Magazine, as well as one of the top 50 business professionals on Twitter by OnlineNDA.com. Today, Kathy is here to help us learn how to manage our social media presence so we're not managed by Kathy.
Thank you. Hey, y'all. How many of you are using Facebook right now? How many of you are using Facebook and are on it maybe once a week? How many of you are on it like at least 3 times a week? Okay. How about Twitter? How many of you are on Twitter? Okay. Twitter's my favorite platform. And how many of you are on Pinterest? Okay. How many of you guys are on Mantrist? That's for beard, boobs, and all things men. M-A-N-T-R-E-S-T. That's not my paraphrase. That's how they market themselves, because there are too many guys that say, oh, that Pinterest stuff, it's for girls, which isn't true, but we're happy to do. That's kind of like what the difference between Facebook and Google Plus is now. Is that a lot of the guys said, let the women do Facebook, we're going to do the more manly Google Plus kind of thing. So that's kind of the difference between the two. Okay, I'm hoping that if I have enough time, that unfortunately the link is not working to show you, to take you to the net and show you setup stuff, which is part of what I'd hope we'd be able to do today, but we're not going to be able to do that because of the connection here. So, and I apologize, I thought the screen would be a little bigger here. I have lots of clients coming to me and telling me, Kathy, I just want to do the free stuff now. They don't want to spend money on print media, they don't want to spend money on television, they don't want to spend money on radio, they want to do social media because it's free. Okay. Those of you that spend time on social media, is it free? Does it cost you to open money to open a Facebook account? Nope. No. Although you do.
You value your time.
That's right. That's where the money and the time costs, and learning how to use all the stuff that it takes you to figure out how to use each individual platform. Plus, when you read the rules, if you're one of the few people that looks at the rules before you sign on the dotted line, what you find out is anything that you post on Facebook, you're giving Facebook permission to use any way they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They say that the pictures are still yours, but that you give them license to use them in any way that they see fit. Now, I've only ever had one friend among my hundreds and hundreds of friends on social media that got their picture hijacked, but that's their out clause. In fact, when they bought Instagram, that was the big deal about when they bought Instagram, because Instagram came out and really said out front, your pictures are my pictures. And then everybody on Instagram said, no, we don't like that, and they kind of did a step back and they're reevaluating their position on that. But it takes time because you want to reach people wherever they are. With my own business and with college, I sometimes I talk to people. I was texting on my way out here today. I was using the phone. Some people prefer to send me emails. Some people prefer to talk to me on Facebook. Some people prefer to talk to me on Twitter. It takes a little time to keep up with all those different mediums. But a smart marketer knows I communicate with people on the plane they most prefer. I personally am not a wild Facebook fan. I'm on Facebook because my old friends from high school and college, that's where they're most likely to find me. I do not use Facebook for business purposes. I use it mostly for personal things. My Twitter account is very different. I do use my Twitter account a lot for business. And that's just because that's where my audiences are. Most of my friends from high school and college that are trying to find me are looking for me on Facebook. Most of them have never tried Twitter, or they're what we call the lurkers that are on Twitter. Okay, the lurkers are the people that sign up for an account and then can't figure it out the first month. That's 80% of the people that sign up for Twitter drop using it after the first month. Because talking in 140 characters seems a little strange to us. What I tell my students, and I force them to follow me or I flunk them, because I'm a nasty witch. Because if I don't force them to do it, they won't try it. I have people tell me all the time, oh, young people, they know social media. Bull. Young people might know Facebook. But Facebook is not all of social media. There are lots of other different platforms to use. So that doesn't happen. Just like the computer's telling us that we don't happen. Do you want to allow the program to make, no, I don't want it to make an automatic update on here to my hard drive. So you use the platforms that you can to sign people. So in the little tiny print that I can barely see when I'm even up here, this says direct marketing, internet, email marketing, advertising, web, social media, search marketing, SEO, and events. There are all different kinds of ways that you'll find and meet people through different things in your real life. The same thing is true when you use social media. You will find different pockets of people, different places. So you have to reach your target market where they are. That's my grandson, Brandon. And that's the device that his hand is attached to most of the day when he's not working. I see head shaking. You know people like that too. Okay, so if I want to talk to my grandson, do I call him on the phone?
They don't answer.
I send him a direct message on Facebook because that's where he most likely is. Facebook is the medium that a lot of young people are using to get their news. I don't know about you, but that scares the heck out of me.
Yes.
I have students that actually believe there are monsters and, what are those Walking Dead people called? Zombies. Yeah, they think they're zombies and little critters. Okay, because that's what they see on Facebook. So, finding out where your target market is and who they're like. So for y'all, most of y'all that have a district, you can use some of this information, which probably most of you have used before. Those of you that have gone on the census.gov website know, none of you are federal government employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're laughing, okay. They must pay somebody every 2 days to switch how you find information on the census website. So don't even try to do that. Every time I go, I teach my students how to do it one day, and 2 weeks later, not even that, it's a different format to go find the information you need. So if you use one of the other sources, it's a little easier to find information rather than wading through pages and pages of information. So learning for your particular demographics, for your specific districts, what do your districts look like as far as income level, education level? Why does that make a difference to you? We don't have anybody here, but if anybody knows Chuck Wirtz, he's a friend of mine. I believe he's been here quite a few times before. Okay? My Lebanon Daily News, I am ashamed to say, is published for a 4th grade level, reading level. Most newspapers are written for a 7th grade reading level. The Philadelphia Inquirer's higher, the Pittsburgh Tribune is a little higher, because that's the average reading level of people reading those publications. You know, if you're using a newspaper, the pictures are more valuable to you than the story. Because when you hold up a newspaper, your brain, without being programmed, says, I'm going to read every page in a Z pattern. Across the top, down to the bottom left-hand corner, across the bottom. If what I have to say to you isn't on the Z pattern, it's very unlikely that you're going to see it unless I have a picture. Because the only alternate to reading a newspaper, glancing at a newspaper in the Z pattern, is if you have a picture. Especially if it's the only picture on the page, because people look at all the pictures on every page. Maybe not long. So when I get a story, I'm really happy if I get a picture, because I know my story is much more likely to get read. So I got the front page of the Lebanon Daily News last weekend because I had fairies in Mount Gretna. because nobody else has a fairy garden parade. So the fairies were gathering in Gretna. Who doesn't like a picture of little kids dressed up like fairies? Only one person on the Daily News website said, "This is hard news." Because there's so little good news to be read that day, pictures of the fairies make people feel good. So we'll look at one of the target demographic groups for Hershey a little bit later and use it in an exercise. So you can see what those demographics are. Then you have a strategy. You sit down and you outline, which I hope is part of what the previous session was all about. You have a plan for how you're going to communicate with your target audience. A plan. You don't take everything you've done the year before and just do it again, because that's convenient. You should be doing an ROI, return on investment study, on everything that you're doing to see if it's paying for it, because your budgets are getting much bigger every year, right guys? Uh-huh. You have to make sure every dollar is working hard for you to communicate, get your message to your target audience, which means we don't do as many of the, gee, that's really nice that you want to have an ad in the high school basketball program. Okay? Most people take those as a gimme. It's something nice we do for other people. We really don't expect a return on it. And people design their ads accordingly. I'm not saying the basketball ad can't work for you, because I make them work, because I know how to make them work with the target audience. But most people put in compliments of Wallett's Flooring. Whoopee dang. What kind of a message is that sending other than, isn't that nice that Wallett's Flooring supports the high school basketball team? Not something like, for every night that we win a basketball game, come in and order, if you order carpet that night, you get 10% off with some of the proceeds dedicated to the winning team. How is that different? If you need flooring and you create a sense of urgency, you're going to get more people through the door. Compliments of Wallett's Flooring does not give you any sense of urgency, does it? Not when there's 2,000 other things going on in our mind at the same time that are demanding our attention. Just like when you're driving. How many of you think you're at least average, if not a better than average driver? Come on, guys. All the guys you can's usually go up during this time. Statistically, 88% of us believe that we are better than average drivers. Is that a probable statistic? It's impossible that over 50% of us could be better than average drivers. Because when you're driving, your body is simultaneously doing 2,000 things at the same time, which we don't think about because they're unconscious, subconscious kinds of things. The same thing with marketing messages barraging us every day, every second of the day, with billboards, radio commercials, what our kids sometimes get programmed to say at school. So whatever we have to say has to be meaningful in order for it to stick. So you have to figure it out is what is going to grab the emotion. First you grab the emotion, not the intellect. How are you going to grab the emotion of what your target audience is? How are you going to create a sense of urgency and immediacy to whatever you would like them to act upon to get it done? So you have to have a plan in order to do that. Then people say, oh, these newfangled communication methods, they're so much different than they were in the past. No, they're not. Foursquare is just like looking at a globe. Foursquare is when you go on your phone and you say, hey, I'm at the Blair County Convention Center right now. And if I'm the first one to check in today, I get a mayor badge. I'm a woman, that makes no difference to me, but apparently to you guys, that's really hot. You love being the mayor. You love earning the rewards points. Okay? WordPress is like writing a paper. Instagram is like sending a picture. Pinterest is an electronic bulletin board. They're the same kinds of networking tools, only in a digital format. So then it just takes a while to figure out how do we get used to those things. The great thing about social media, it allows you to tell your own story. How many of you have sent a press release to the media, and when you see it in the paper, you think, did I write that press release? Is it remotely like what I wrote? You don't have that choice. When you send a press release to the press, they'll do whatever they want to it so that you'll probably barely recognize it by the time it gets printed. Usually that's a good thing because people send press releases to the press and don't know how to write a good press release. Okay, but there are other times I look at my own work and I think, how in the world did they get that out of what they sent them? When I use social media, I control every word, every picture, every impression that I make on social media because I do it myself. So if you have that kind of power, and it is power, you have to make sure that you use it well. I texted my intern working back in Mount Gretna today. I said, it was great that you made 3 Facebook posts last night, but you didn't check your spelling or your punctuation, so I had to correct all 3 of them. Because I love that we're telling our own story. He sometimes will take, like he took a picture, we had a party, and he did a cake selfie picture of him with the cake in the background. That was really cute, that was good. And he spelled everything the right way, okay? But because he's representing my group, I have to make sure that whatever he's saying and how he acts reflects adequately on my group. A lot of people know that I post on that page. How does it make me look as a college professor if what I post doesn't have correct punctuation or misspellings in it? What's she teaching college for? She can't even write herself. Okay, so an opportunity to tell your own story, not have someone tell it for you. Managing social media, when someone tells your story for you, you're allowing yourself to be managed by the press or by social media. First rule of politics, you want to tell your own story. You don't want the media telling your own story with their own spin on it. So I apologize that this is so small. This is called Brian Solis's Conversation Prison. And before you leave today, if you give me your business cards, I will email you my presentation so you can see everything that's in the really small print on here. Also, there's digital electronic links all through here that you can go to that I'll refer to today and we can't use because the hookup's not working correctly. These are all different kinds of mediums that you can communicate on social media with people. So then you have to figure out which way, how do you really want to talk to people? Do you want to talk to people about social status kinds of things? Do you want to talk to people about jobs or professions? Do you want to talk to people via pictures? Do you want to talk to people via social bookmarks? These different colors all the way around the wheel, it all depends on what your message is that you want to communicate to your public and where your public is and using these particular sites. I loved, I have a Delicious account. And what happens when I do a lot of reading online, I read lots of articles and I think, how am I ever gonna, do I have to print every article that I read? Well, the first year I had a computer, I had a stack like this next to my printer of all the stuff that I printed and I never got time to read. Now I have a little, it's called Delicious, it's a bookmarking tool. And I have there's a little pin on my search bar and I click that and it saves that for me to read later. I have it qualified and classified, all electronically, all digitally that I can do. Then I have a great thing called a Feedly account. I don't have to go to the 25 or 125 different blogs that I read and go find them separately on the internet. I'm connected by what's called an RRSS feed, Real Simple Syndication. It's like an electronic subscription to a magazine. It comes right to my Feedly account. I don't have to go find and go to each one of those individual websites during the course of a day. I can bring it right to my Feedly account. And then I can tweet or Facebook or Instagram right from my Feedly account anything that I read. So it makes me look like I'm a thought leader. That's part of my plan for moving forward and talking with people. Part of the reason that I'm perceived as a marketing expert, I don't normally call myself that because I don't think that I am. But I'm above the curve anyway. Because I know that making other people, that bringing new information to people puts me ahead and makes me a thought leader in my field. I can do that right from my Feedly account. It's very convenient on a whole bunch of different subjects. The whole purpose of social media is to engage in conversations and relationships with people. I went on vacation to Ocean City, Maryland last summer, and I took my great-granddaughter, I have 11 great-grandchildren, my great-granddaughter and her best friend sat in the back seat right next to each other all the way to Ocean City. They did not talk to each other. They texted each other all the way down and all the way back. I felt like turning around halfway through the trip and saying, would you two please talk to each other, put the darn phones away? That's not how they communicate with their peers. is to engage in conversations and build relationships with people. I talk to my granddaughter, my great-granddaughter, her preferred method of communication is text. I hardly ever get to see her, but when I send her a text, she answers just like that. And we discovered on this trip that I listen to the same radio station that she does. So the old bag isn't quite as uncool as she thought she was. Okay? My students find it very interesting when they get in my car that I have a same CD in their car that they might be listening to. And I also have another student who does not drive a Volkswagen anymore because if I drive one, it can't be cool. Okay? But the purpose is to engage and talk with people on a plane that they prefer to talk with, that they prefer to talk in. It's not about my dear beloved friend who is now departed, John Belushi, this is from Animal House, spewing. It's not just a platform to talk platitudes and talk about whatever you want to talk about and have no interaction with the person who might be reading this. Unfortunately, most of your legislators have their social media accounts set up to spew. It's just another way for them to communicate what they think is important to you, not to have a conversation with you. I can think of maybe 5 or 6 legislators whose social media accounts are two-way streets. That's not the purpose of social media. It's to have conversations with people. Engage with them in a way that's meaningful to them. The growth of social media is huge over time. I still talk to people that think, oh, it's just a fad, it's going to go away. And it's really hard to say, especially if they're paying you. You're in complete denial, you need to go to a mental health facility now. Because it's not going to go away. And more people are using it on an ongoing basis. Okay, Facebook has actually been losing a little steam lately because, one, teenagers are leaving it because if my great-grandmother's using it, it can't possibly be cool. Okay, they're preferring Instagram and Snapchat. If your kids are using Snapchat, I want you to go home and take their accounts off their phones when you go home. Because a Snapchat message can be set to erase 10 seconds after it's read. Snapchat is the preferred medium for sexting and bullying among young people. There is no good use for Snapchat. 0. Okay, so pick one of the other mediums. Pinterest is now crested over Twitter because some people find it so difficult to use Twitter. What I tell my students is, if you can say what you want to say in 140 characters, that means you know your subject, you're intelligent, and you're capable of being concise. That puts you ahead of 95% of your peers. Because most people of any age don't know how to do that. When I send you the digital copy of this, there's a really great video by Eric Qualman called Socialnomics, and it talks about the populations of people that are using Facebook and Twitter, and how the digital population is much greater than a lot of populations of particular countries. So then you have to figure out, okay, if we do the social media thing, how are we going to do this? Who's going to talk? What are we going to say? I have a staff of 20. Should they all talk at the same time? No. Not unless you want people to think you have a split personality. Okay, you want to be careful to create a vision and a voice that speaks as one person, so that it's hard to tell that there are multiple people texting or posting on Facebook or tweeting for you. So you have to cover things like who's going to post, who's the person that's responsible for creating what we decide to do here. Does your lawyer need to be involved? Yeah. Okay. Because there are people that we'll talk about later called trolls and flamers that will look for opportunities to exploit you. I'm a perfect example of that, which I will explain later. You need to make sure that somebody's monitoring your presence on social media. Okay, I have a Google alert set up for my name, Kathleen Snavely, and my business name, Lightkeeper Consulting, because I haven't officially opened AIM yet. I'm fortunate that I have clients lined up before I even open the door because I talk about social media so often. So anytime that my name gets mentioned on the internet, I get an alert sent to me care of Google. And unfortunately for me, my search engine optimization is really good. Kathy Snavely is a very common name. Okay, apparently I'm the Kathy Snavely with the biggest mouth in the world, because on the first 5 pages of Google, I'm like all but four mentions. And the interesting part I'll get to when we talk about trolls and flamers, and it's not all kind that's being said. That's all right. So I have my intern keep his computer on all day, so it's on Facebook. We don't have that many people talk to us on Twitter. Or if he had Hootsuite on the computer at work, that anytime anybody says anything on any of our social media sites, a little bing goes off on the computer so we can respond to it in a timely way. I say if you don't leave it open all the time because you can respond, then you need to go on and check it at least every 2 hours. Because you don't want people to think, well, gee, they didn't reply to me. I posted that last week. Why aren't they saying something to me? You give the impression that you're not on, which may be true. You haven't been on Facebook in the last week, okay, which means that you're telling people that's not a meaningful way that you like to have conversations with people. So you've got to monitor your presence there. What are the engagement parameters that you have with people? What will you and will you not discuss with them online? Okay, cardinal rule, you never have an argument online with somebody. You don't win online conversations like that. If somebody wants to challenge you, a troll or a flamer, you need to process and take that offline. I see that you have a very strong viewpoint on this. I would be happy to discuss that with you in person. You may call me between such and such times at this number, and I'll be happy to discuss that with you. Okay, don't delete the comment. Why don't delete the comment?
You want to look transparent.
You want to look transparent, and you don't want people to think that you don't want to answer the question. Okay? And you have an opportunity to impress people with the grace with which you answer some of the ridiculous questions you will get without calling somebody stupid, as tempting as that might be. You have to decide for your organization what is public and what is private. You have to draw the borderlines around what those things are. My husband is a 5-time cancer survivor. Never did I imagine I would be talking to people about cancer on social media. But we were on, I forget if it was diagnosis number 2 or number 3, and I said something about going to the hospital, and somebody asked a question about it, and I said, oh, my husband has cancer for the 3rd time. I was barraged with people asking me questions and wanting to talk about it. So I do now, because it's part of the fiber. It wasn't something I planned on, it just kind of happened. Because there aren't that many people that survive cancer 5 different times. So one of the gifts that I can give people is if you get early diagnosis and a good doctor, there's hope. Most oftentimes there's hope. So that, while I didn't anticipate that being public, it is now part of my MO. What does your organization's online personality look like? Is it a reflection of the person who tweets or posts? Or if you have multiple people, how do you sit down and decide, this is what we want this person's personality, or personas, they say in the marketing field, this is what we want our online persona to feel like, to sound like, to talk like, to look like. In what time frame will you respond? That's usually within the context of the medium. I've told Alex I want it within 2 hours of any time he's in the office that we want people to respond to, because we want to encourage people to ask us questions and have conversations with us. You have to decide what your message is that you want to communicate to people. Okay, we make politicians boil everything they do into 3 sentences. I also do political consulting. Your entire message, if you're an effective politician, needs to go in 3 sentences. Because people's attention span is about that long. And political attention span is even shorter unless it's the week before the election. Then they all of a sudden, some people pay attention. But believe it or not, over 40% of the people that go into the booth do not have their minds made up until they get to the booth and they flip the switch. I'm way too old for that line of work. It's just too hard. Because I'm a thoughtful, deliberate person. So what is your message, and what are the rules for each platform? You have to know what the rules are. If all of a sudden you're very quiet on Twitter, I call people, not me, the term is we use lurkers, people that don't say a lot on Twitter, and all of a sudden you start tweeting a whole bunch of times a day, you're going to go to Twitter jail. because Twitter thinks that must be a computer and an Autobot doing that tweeting, because that account sat there and been dormant for so long. That's a computer that's doing that, and you'll go to Twitter jail. You need to know what the rules are for Twitter jail so you don't end up going there by accident. There are these little cartoons you can make up called bit strips. Has anybody seen them on social media where people are doing, and I had a friend who was not on Twitter for a really long time, and she got obsessed with bit strips and did like 12 in one day. After the 10th one, she said, I'm in Twitter jail, I don't even know what I did. And I thought, well, that's because you didn't read the rules. You don't know what the rules were. Twitter said, oh, that person's tweeting too much. It must not really be that person because they don't pay that much attention to their spot, and shut their account down. They were off Twitter for 48 hours because of that. So you need to know what the rules are about doing that. I had a student who went online to Rate My Professor, very popular site with students. This particular student did not like the grade that he got and claimed that I gave him that grade because I was white and he wasn't. Fortunately for me, I had some of my other African American students get on and defend me, because I emailed them and I talked to them and I said, am I completely unaware of what I'm doing? They said, no, it's not you. He does this in every class. He broke the rules at Rate My Professor, and they took all the ratings down that he put up. Not just the ones about me, everyone, because he broke the rules. Okay, so know what the rules are for each platform. Trolls and flamers. Okay. Has anybody heard my name before today? Okay, that's good. You've heard this story already.
It's a good story.
I have a lovely woman who is stalking me online who needs to be in a mental health facility, but unfortunately there's no court that's going to make her go there. If you Google my name, you will find out that I am morally and financially bankrupt.
You're qualified to be here.
One, well, I am a publicly elected official. That's why I am morally and financially bankrupt. I'm an easy target because I'm a publicly elected official. I teach social media and I practice what I teach, therefore I'm online a lot. So I'm a very easy target to stalk on social media, which is why I personally do not use Foursquare. I don't think it's smart for me as a woman to be telling people where I am every 5 minutes. Okay, so I do not use Foursquare. Okay, that's my thing. But in this particular case, this is one of my constituents who no longer lives in our town. She now lives in Texas. She and her partner lived in a house in Mount Gretna, and they came to a public meeting and they said, we don't like the motorcycle noise. So they asked what we could do about it. I said, okay, I got the representative elected, so I'll talk to her. I worked on the senator's campaign. I'll talk to him. I was a mad mother. I'll talk to the police officer. I know him. Gathered the information and gave it back to her, sent it to her in print, along with letters from each one of those people. And she came to the public meeting the next year and she said, you people didn't do anything about the motorcycle noise. And I looked to my board to the left and to the right, and they just went, Okay, she was in jail for, was in jail for 3 times when she was in our area. She and her partner broke up. She has been in jail 5 times since she moved to Texas. But what happened was I saw that she was going to be an issue for our board of directors moving forward, and being the self-sacrificing person that I am, I said I'll be her interface to try to give her the information she needs and keep her calm, which ended up backfiring on me because when she got arrested for putting a hose in her front yard to squirt across Route 117 so motorcyclists would get wet and fall on or slip on the road, yes, there really are people like this. Who do the police officers, who's the first person a police officer calls to check this girl out? Why? Because I've known that police officer since he was 3 years old and I sang at his wedding. I live in a very small town. And since I talked to that police officer, I spilled the beans on her and I became morally and financially bankrupt. If you Google my name, it'll come up on the first page of Google. You can read all about it. I would encourage you not to, because that's how she gets her jolly. She looks at her counter every day to see who reads all the lies. She has nicknames for every person in my town that has a name, and she now lives in Texas, and she's not going to come back to Pennsylvania because she's got so many bench warrants out for her, they're gonna arrest her if she comes back. So, but she likes to bully people online. That is what we would call a troll. Somebody that goes online, maybe he's assuming an identity, maybe not, but likes to cause problems online on a regular basis. A flamer is a once intensive kind of thing and then they kind of burn out. They're just interested in a one-time thing. Anne has been torturing, or thinking she's torturing me for 3 years. Okay, that's the only negative thing you're gonna find about me online. I have lost one client because of what she put online, and frankly, if I lost a client to that, I really don't want them if they believe some lunatic, what somebody wrote on the internet, then I'm not interested in working for them anyway. I'm too old to not do what I don't love anymore. Oh, so those are trolls and flamers. So you need to have a plan for how you're gonna deal with these people. Because people that have no sense about themselves, just like when you were in elementary school on the playground, they like to bully other people. The bullies come out online a lot because they can hide behind a name that is not theirs and speak their mind and not get caught for it, which gives them a sense of.
So what is your recommendation for somebody like that? I mean, you said to have a plan to deal with people like that. What do you recommend?
In my case, I'm ignoring this person because that's what she hates more than anything else and why she keeps hanging on. I have enough legal evidence because whenever your computer goes online and you go to a website or something, you leave your computer IP number, that's a number assigned to your computer in particular. Every place you go, you leave your IP number. I could put her away for 25 years if I wanted to, but it's not going to solve her mental health issues, unfortunately. Because the first time she went to court, she had 3 psychologists testify to her mental health. She must have paid them a god-awful amount of money to testify that way. But unfortunately, the rules that we have in Pennsylvania for mentally unhealthy people, if you don't commit yourself, you're not going. How many people think a mentally unhealthy person is going to commit themselves? Hello. Okay? So, I know that up front. I know that this person is an unlicensed attorney in Pennsylvania, so I just ignore her. And I can do that because this is the only person that is saying things like this about me online. If it were multiple people doing multiple things, it would be different. Plus, if you go on her blog, it's not hard to tell that all her marbles aren't where they're supposed to be.
So you're saying if it's just one nut job in the universe, then it'd probably be best just to ignore them. But if there's multiple people who have similar concerns, do you address that?
Right, and again, if they show up and say negative things, the first thing you do is say you have some concerns that I can see are very important to you. Call me and set up an appointment to come in and talk to me about those things. Okay, and truthfully, if you've got a good community, if they start picking on you, your people that believe in you you won't have to say a word. The other people that know you and believe in you will tell the other people off. You won't have to say a word. Okay, now that's all, you also have to make sure that your policy is in line with whatever your legal considerations are for your particular district and what your attorney says. And most of the time we recommend that you find an attorney that specializes in social media, which there are very few of, because it takes, the nuances of social media are very different than many other aspects of law that people can survive in. But there are lots of examples of social media policies online that you can see, and I'd be happy to send any one of those to you. Okay, so Facebook users. 66% of men are using it, 76% of women are using it. The largest, fastest growing age group for Facebook use is what? What age and what sex?
Women over
Female,
60.
18 to 35.
Females, 55 and above. Because I want to show you pictures of my grandchildren. They're more likely to be black or Hispanic than they are to be white. There's the breakdown by different age groups. 60% of 50 plus people are on Facebook. 45% of 65 plus year olds. More and more people. Almost all the classes that I teach in Mount Gretna are all senior citizens. And God bless America, they test my patience something terrible. How do I find the Wi-Fi? Income level all across the board. Google Plus versus Facebook. Google Plus does not have as many users, but Google Plus is very similar to Facebook, and more men are using that than women. Because some men think that Facebook is too girly for them. Twitter, in very small print, I apologize again, I don't know if you can read it on your handouts. Female Hispanic 20-somethings who attend college, live in the city, and makes $30,000 K below or $50,000 to $75,000 K. If you're doing a political campaign of any kind and you want to reach Latinos, that's how to do it, social media. That cultural subgroup, more than any other cultural subgroup, has smartphones and know how to use them. Because y'all know when the next presidential election comes around, all this stuff that you're putting on social media, there's a big computer in the sky that's collecting all this stuff, and people coming to your door for political elections are going to have all that information at their fingertips. True. Usually when you tweet, the formula that we follow is 70% is of whatever you want to be known for in your professional field. So I talk about entrepreneurship and marketing. Those are the two subjects that I'm known for speaking about. 20% are retweets. I'm repeating what somebody else tweeted. And 10% is personal stuff. Okay? I have people ask me all the time, why do you have so many followers? And when I look at the person that I'm talking to, sometimes the question, and I shut my mouth before it comes out, I don't tweet pictures about my colonoscopy. I don't just say, I just changed my grandson's diaper. Who gives a rip? Talk about what your audience wants to hear. And if you don't know what they want to hear, watch them and ask them. They will tell you. Too small to look at. Instagram, lots and lots of people. This is the preferred medium for most young people these days. Okay, from Instagram, I use that on the way out here, and I put hashtag beautiful day to drive in PA. When I was coming over the Breezewood Hill, plump. That was it. Okay, then with Instagram, I can tell it which social media platforms I want it to go to, and it automatically goes to there from Instagram. I only have to put it in once, and it'll go to the social media platform. So I don't have to go into each. I don't have to go to Facebook. I don't have to go to Twitter. I don't have to go to Pinterest. It'll take it, send it wherever I want it to go. Instagram is handy. The application on smartphones is not foolproof. I have to fuss with mine sometimes. Excuse me. But pictures and selfies are what Instagram is all about. Y'all know what a selfie is, right? Take a picture of myself. I don't do that very often. But lots of people do. When you take incessant selfies, what are you telling other people? Either I am the most wonderful thing that ever walked the face of the earth, or I feel so poorly about myself, I have to post lots of pictures to make myself feel good about myself. Neither of which is a message you really want to be giving people. Okay, an occasional selfie is okay. I have a friend that posts 12 selfies a day.
Wow.
YouTube, 1 billion unique viewers. 4 billion hours of video are watched every month. I don't have time for that, but there are people that do. And what do we really like to watch on YouTube? Cat videos! So if you want to reach the cat people, put a cat in the video. If, however, you want to talk to me, you put up a cat video and you expect me to say, another cat? Another dog? Okay, because I think there's more to life than cat videos, or squirrel videos, or chipmunk videos. But I'm a serious person. There's a huge following for this kind of stuff on the internet. I'm also afraid of what that says to other cultures about us as well. Pinterest, phenomenally used. It's like an electronic bulletin board. The bulletin board you have in your office that you use with push pins, this is the same thing, only it's electronic. Great for any visual medium whatsoever. I'm a foodie, so I have tons of recipes on my site. I have pictures of lighthouses, people. My office is filled with lighthouses I did not buy because my branding has worked so well. Anytime any one of my clients or friends sees a lighthouse, they think, I must buy that for Kathy. So my granddaughter-in-law, when I kick the bucket, is going to get one heck of a collection of lighthouses. Okay? I have pictures of lighthouses I've been to. I have a list of pictures of book covers that I would like to read. I have pictures of entrepreneurs and all kinds of different things. Recipes is primarily what I use mine for, so I do not use my Pinterest account primarily for business. I use it primarily for personal use. But it's real easy to also use any one of these from your phone. And if you get an application like Hootsuite, you can post to any social media site from one website. Makes it a lot simpler to try and manage things and read them rather than going to separate accounts.
And that's free too. I
It
use
is
that.
free.
It's free. Use it.
Hootsuite, Sprout Social is another one. There's a paid edition that you can have, but there's also a free edition you can have, and it can be a huge time saver for you. But before you go to getting one of those, just learn each tool that you're going to use slowly, one at a time, using baby steps. You don't have to do this all at the same time. So then you have to decide, what do you want your content or your message to be? Is it awareness or education, a sharing of your expertise? Okay, I'm smart enough to know that I am not genius level when it comes to a lot of things that I do, but I know a lot of geniuses. So I share a lot of information from my peers who are really good in my field. So I've created a name for myself on Twitter for doing that. Okay, that's one of the things that I do. The benefits of work that you or your organization does. How do you benefit other people? Okay, most people in your field, that's the primary mistake that you all make when you're working in your field. You have a tendency to talk about features. This remote control is gray and black. It has a red button on it. Those are features. Benefits. How nicely it fits in my hand. How easily it works. It makes me look like I know how to use technology. So, what can your information, how does it benefit people? Part of your unique selling proposition, USP. What are the testimonials that people say to that other people say about you? Is it more meaningful to you if I tell you how wonderful I am? Or is it more important that she tells you how wonderful I am? I'd much rather have her tell you. Because there are a lot of times I don't think I'm so wonderful. Okay. My value is to other people is what other people perceive in me. Okay, I don't make my whole feelings about myself dependent on what other people think. That would not be good. Okay, because some people think I'm a nutcase. Part of that is because I have a pretty good sense of humor, but sometimes I have very divergent viewpoints from other people that I know I'm in. Information on new product services, updates, and releases. You try not to do the sell message. Jeff Gitomer is one of the smartest guys in marketing today, and he says you don't try to sell people, you try to help people find what they want to buy. Do you understand the nuance? You're not shoving something down people's throat, you're helping them pick from the buffet what they want to eat. There's a huge difference. You're doing the same thing. It's just like when I tell my kids after I do my children's sermon on Sunday, I could scream, quit writing! Or I can say, remember to use your walking feet. So for 25 years at my church, that is the most often re-quoted phrase that I have. Use your walking feet. Same message, just said in a different way. And then be careful about sharing opinions on politics or religion and being controversial online. I very rarely, even though I'm a political strategist, do I talk politics online. I have lots of friends who do, and there are lots of times I want to tell them how ignorant they are, but I keep those feelings to myself. Because online is not the place for an argument. And most people that print very strong opinions, a lot of times they're looking for an argument. I don't find arguing constructive. Maybe that's because I'm a great-grandma. Okay? Sharing opinions, sitting down and having a dialogue with people that have open minds is a completely different thing. I have better things to do with my time than argue with ignorant people. So all the time, your brain should be tuned on the radio station WIIFM. And you're standing in your target audience's shoes, thinking that they think in their minds, I will listen to you if I can figure out easily what's in it for me. That's how you make people care. What are you doing that is impacting people's lives significantly and in a way that's meaningful to them? When you figure that out and you figure out how to sell your message that way, you will be ridiculously popular because there aren't too many people that figure that out. While it may be free, as we talked about before, it takes time. So you have to figure out which platform does your target audience prefer to use. How do you set up the accounts and what are the nuances of each tool? Do I use emoticons, those little happy smiley faces or pushkins or pimkins to represent my feelings or not? Do I monitor each platform? Do I have a strategy for using each platform? Do I actually pay attention to the platform? The people who have their social media accounts hijacked are generally people that don't pay attention to them. I have one friend who's hardly ever on social media. I got 4 friend requests from that friend. That's because he never pays attention to the site, and he's had his site taken several times over. Also, change your passwords every 3 to 4 months on every site, and do not use the same password on every site. Because if you have the same password on all your sites, it's real easy to go find you on the other sites and crack all your other accounts and screw your life up, but good. Post and respond at least once daily, and then you have to decide for your organization yourself what constitutes ROI, return on investment of your time. I try to spend, it doesn't always work. I'm online probably on using social media in the neighborhood, in the summer months when I'm not teaching, in the neighborhood of 2 hours a day. I don't have to be. If I had to, I could whittle it down to 20 minutes. Once you figure out how to use the platforms and how to monitor them and where to find your information, how to communicate, it becomes a process that you can use in less than a half an hour a day. But the learning curve to get to that point for social media is pretty significant. Baby steps, one at a time. Now, we probably don't have time in 2 minutes to do this. I was going to suggest these are the demographics for Hershey, PA. If you wanted to do, let's say, a recycling contest in Hershey, what social media platforms might you use to reach this particular target audience? Does anybody's budget have television dollars in it? Okay, so we can take television off the table. How about radio? Not enough money for budget in the radio dollars. Okay, so we take radio off the table. How about newspaper? Well, you use newsprint. You have to repeat your message 7 to 17 times for it to be seen the first time by your reader. You're paying for a lot of repetition in newsprint. I'm not telling you not to use it. I'm saying you just have to be wise about it. Don't take one ad out and expect people to respond, because hardly anybody, unless it's an extremely well-designed ad, are going to see it the one time that you run it. Repetition, over and over again. That's why we have politicians boil their message down to 3 sentences. And about halfway through the campaign, they get, I can't say it anymore. And I said, shut up and do what you're told. You've heard it 18 billion times, but they have not heard it 18 billion times. High school graduates, 26.6% of that public. Master's in professional or doctorate degree, 20.7%. That's really high for a municipality. Why is that true in Hershey?
Hospital, school.
Milton Hershey Medical Center. This is a group that likes to read the paper. Higher education levels still read the paper. That's a really effective way to get to them. How about women versus men? 53.7% female. 91.1% white. If you're gonna pick one social media platform to use, what are you gonna use? And in this case, I would also use Twitter because, again, of the higher education demographic. And I would use your schools. You know, that's how I got you to all wear safety belts. I knew that trying to teach y'all to wear safety belts was a waste of my time. I knew teaching your children to nag you was a much better use of time. And it worked. Okay, so find out the demographics, the psychographics, the geographic parameters, the behavioral characteristics for the residents that you work in. There are also groups called marketing segmentations of your group, because not everybody's alike, right? You have pockets of people. You have people that are very educated. You have some people that maybe have a 7th grade education level. In my town, I have to have things in Spanish and in English, because roughly a third of the downtown Lebanon is only Spanish speaking and reading. Okay, that makes things much more expensive. Okay, because I've got a whole demographic that doesn't read a paper, so how am I going to get to them? That's how I'm going to get to them. Know what message you want to communicate. How simple can you make the message, and how relevant and how emotional can you make it? Because if you do not grab people's emotions, they will not pay attention to you. You have to know what's important to them and how to relate your message in a way that's important to them. Look at your budget and select the mediums that are important to your audience to reach with your message, and then actively engage them in targeting messages and having conversations with them. Most of us are such poor listeners that when somebody actually listens to us, we're surprised because we're so used to not being heard. I live with an 86-year-old husband who is hard of hearing, who refuses to get a hearing aid because he tells me it's selective hearing. You guys are laughing because you said the same thing to your wives. It is a scientifically proven fact that the first thing to go in a man's hearing range is the frequency of a woman's voice. The few times that he hears me, I make sure big time that I praise him for hearing what I had to say. Positive reinforcement goes a long way. You can do the same thing to your target audience without insulting them. Thank you for listening. Do the same thing in return. You will be surprised when you listen to them that somebody's going to say to you, I can't believe you actually just heard what I had to say. Questions?
Yes. Have you ever worked with farmers as a group?
I have worked with farmers.
How do you communicate? Is there a certain preferred method to communicate with them?
I ran 3 supervisor races in North Cornwall Township. We have 12 very large farms there, and they control a good deal of the square footage, the land print of that particular one. My farmers in that particular district, I only learn from talking to them. They get up and they talk to each other online at 4 o'clock in the morning. Allen Theater in Anvil, the theater owner is a night owl. Once he stops showing the movie, he leaves the coffee shop open until 3 o'clock in the morning. So if I want to talk to Skip, I show up at the coffee shop at 1:30 in the morning. That's not my preferred hour of communication, okay, but I'm a middle-aged woman, I don't sleep that well anyway. So if I want to talk to Skip, I get up and I go to the theater at 1:30 in the morning. So it's a matter of talking to people and figuring out, when you find friendly voices, how do you talk to each other and congregate to each other, and then putting yourself in that position without, feeling like you're a whore, without wheedling your way in. So I had a friend of mine who was a farmer in the district who said, hey, this is Kathy, she's working on this campaign over here. Would it be okay if we invited her to participate in our discussion group? And then I also said, well, of course, I'll make them all carrot cakes to sweeten the deal, so that worked. Because I'm a wicked good baker.
I have a question about blogging.
Yes.
You haven't mentioned blogs except following them through Delicious or whatever.
Right.
What's, in some ways, the format for conservation districts, if we have, regular, like, I don't know, monthly kind of a blog, somebody writes or I don't know, I'm just thinking it might be a good format
Blogging is absolutely positively the best thing you can do for search engine optimization because blogs are well searched by search engines. If you're not gonna write at least once a month, I would recommend once a week.
That's what I was gonna say, what's the optimal, or how much effort? The main problem with blogging is somebody has to actually sit down and write it.
That's right.
And so, I guess, so is once a week enough? Or once a month enough? What's enough?
Once a week is at least, once a month is bare minimum.
Okay.
Once a week is even better. And for those of you that are time pressed, my recommendation to you, since you're in the leadership of this group, is that you have a blog contributory group, that you get a group of 52 people that says, I will write a blog post, one blog post for the whole year. You decide what subject matter everybody's going to use, and then everybody uses those same 52 blog posts. So I only have to write one blog post for the whole year. We've already agreed on what the subject is, and it's no responsibility, no one person is too heavily responsible for that other than the administrator doing that. So when you have a group like that, that's a real easy, relatively easy thing to do once you have it organized. Then you just have to leave the flexibility that if something comes up that's particularly newsworthy that's related to your field, you jump on it because your search engine optimization, if you connect with something that's popular in the media, will go right out the roof. But the regularity of doing a regular blog post, and you can share each other's names. You can say, we're the Pennsylvania Conservation District's organization, and we share information that we believe is important to each other. Coming up with 52 subjects, that should be really easy for y'all. Really easy. That's how to find me. If you don't hear back from me within 48 hours, it means I'm sick, I'm out of town, or I'm dead. Or I didn't get it. One of the above. I always reply within 48 hours because my computer's on most of the time. In fact, I was driving and texting on my way out here. But I only did it when there were no cars within at least 200 feet of me any which direction. Since I used to work in highway safety. Okay. Thanks for your attention. I'm always happy anytime. Email me or call me with your questions.